Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Now this video that I'm doing today is one that has been requested so many times. It's so highly requested and I've said that I was gonna do it before and I filmed it before and I just never liked the way it turned out. This is my third time filming this video, so I'm just gonna hope that third time's a charm because I was not happy with the last two times I filmed this video, so hopefully this is the one. My video today is going to be all about feeding your reptiles. I'm going to be showing you guys how I feed all of my reptiles, how I prepare all the food, and how I take care of my feeder insect. Now my snakes aren't going to be included in this video. It's going to be all of my other reptiles. The focus of this video is really towards like feeder insects and their care and stuff like that, rather than snakes who eat like mice and rats. I'm not going to go into that for this video today. So basically in my video today I'm going to be showing you guys me feeding my reptiles, and then I'm also going to show you how I take care of my feeder insects and gut load them and everything like that. So we're gonna go ahead and start with just some feeding clips because I know a lot of people really enjoy those. They like feeding videos, they find them entertaining. So we're gonna go ahead and start with just some clips of me feeding my animals, and then we'll get on into the actual feeder care and like food preparation and all that stuff towards the end of the video. If you're here just looking to learn about my feeder care and stuff like that and you don't want to see any clips of me feeding my pets, you can skip to this time here. It will be on the screen somewhere here. So if you just want to go straight ahead and like learn about feeder care and proper diets and stuff, just skip to this time down here. All of that being said, now let's just go ahead and start feeding some of my pets. Okay, so this is my reptile room in here where I keep the majority of my reptiles along with a lot of my supplies. So in this top drawer here is where I keep a lot of my feeding supplies, such as like my Pangea, cricket food, and my calcium and whatnot. And then down on this shelf here I keep all of my feeder insects such as the crickets, superworms, mealworms, and fruit flies. So I think we'll start off with the Pangea. So this will be going to my crested gecko who is in here, my baby gargoyle gecko in there, and then also Mark, who is my day gecko, in there. So in here I have three different kinds of Pangea, but I think for tonight I'll go with the banana and apricot gecko food. Okay, now let's go and take the superworms and the mealworms so that I can feed my leopard gecko and my fat tail gecko. Also going to go and grab my vitamin powder. I have calcium powder here as well, but I always alternate between the two, so sometimes I'll use the calcium and sometimes I'll use the vitamin powder. So for today we are going to be using the vitamin powder. Okay, so now I have all the vitamins on the superworm. The dish was wet because I just washed it before I went ahead and did this, so some of the vitamin powder like stick to the dish, so that's just what all of this is. And clearly it's all over my hands too, but I mean it's on the superworms and that's what matters. Okay, so now for my fat tail gecko, I'm just going to go and pick out about 10 mealworms and put them in the dish. God, where are they all? I just bought 50 mealworms and it's like there's none in here. Okay, so you can see I already poured some vitamin powder in here, so now I'm just gonna go and like shake it up so that it gets on them. What I hate about this vitamin powder is like the calcium sticks to them really well, but I find like the vitamin powder doesn't stick to them as well, but there's still a bit on there, so we're good. Okay, so now I'll just take the mealworms and stick them in here. She typically just comes and like eats them during the nighttime when she wants to, so I just leave them in here. She is over here if you can see her. Hello, Daisy. This is her cage and her mealworms. Oh my god. Fix yourself there. So all the mealworms are just in here, so she'll just come and eat them later on when she wants to. You can tell that someone's ready for food. Where are you going? Okay, so now we're gonna go and get the crickets to feed to my chameleon and also to Mark. He already got some Pangea, but he eats both. He gets Pangea and cricket. So I'm also going to be using my vitamin powder. Now, like I said before, I use calcium also, but I alternate between the two. So today we are using vitamins. Okay, so I just take one of these tubes, and the tubes always have crickets in them. You can see them all down here. And then I'll take a bit of vitamin powder and pour it in the tube and then shake it up. All right, I typically pour them over a plant here because a lot of the times there's like loose vitamin powder and I don't want it to go everywhere, so I just let it go in the plant pot. And then I left a few in here to give to Mark. Okay, and then I will go and give the few remaining crickets to Mark. There, so I put about 6 crickets in there, which is good for Mark. He is fairly small, so he doesn't eat a whole lot. Plus, he has his Pangea also, whereas my chameleon gets a lot more crickets. He gets like 20 to 30. And then lastly, we will go and give my Pac-Man frog an earthworm or two. And we will probably also get him some fresh water since his is a little dirty. Yeah, this is a pretty big worm, so I'll probably just give him the one. Oh. They're not the best at eating. Oh my god, there he goes. Yum. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and just seen some fun feeding clips, let's go ahead and start talking about how I actually care for my feeders and what I do to keep them alive. So feeder insects play a huge role in your pet's diet. Ultimately, you want them to be the best quality they can be. Now, you may be familiar with the term gut loading. Gut loading is a very important step when it comes to keeping feeder insects to ensure that your animal that you're feeding it to has the best quality food it can possibly get, basically. When you gut load your feeders, it ensures that they are full of healthy vitamins and minerals that your reptile or whatever you're feeding it to is now going to be consuming. So not only is gut loading important for the reptile that you're feeding the insects to, but it's also important for the insects themselves, because obviously if you don't want all of your insects to die, they're going to need food and water in order to survive. Another reason that I like to take really good care of my feeder insects is actually for the well-being of the insects themselves. Now, I know that they're obviously going to be food and they're just bugs, but regardless, they are still a living creature, and I think it is important that we give all living creatures a good life, even if they are going to be food. So even though all of these insects I have here are going to be eventually fed to reptiles, that doesn't mean that I don't think they deserve to have a good life, because that is not the case. I personally think any living thing is completely entitled to have a good life, even if they are going to be food. So on the table behind me here, I have 5 different kinds of feeder insects and all of the supplies I use to keep them alive. Now, even though I have 5 different insects here, I'm only going to be talking about 3 of them specifically. I just wanted to bring the other 2 out to kind of show you. So the 2 that I'm not going to be talking about today are my Canadian night crawlers. So these are just essentially earthworms. And then I have a culture of flightless fruit flies. Now, the reason I'm not going to include those in this video today is because they're not essentially very commonly kept, and a lot of care doesn't really go into keeping them. For example, the worms here just live in a little container of dirt, and again, just not a whole lot goes into caring for them. So what I will be including in this video would be crickets, mealworms, and superworms. One thing I want to say is I will not be including dubia roaches in this video. Now, I just wanted to say that because I'm sure I will get a lot of comments on this if I don't say it. Dubia roaches are a common feeder for reptiles, and they're a really healthy one, but unfortunately here in Canada, all species of roaches are illegal, so I do not have access to them. I can't keep them, so therefore I'm not going to tell you guys how to care for your dubia roaches if you do have them, because I have no idea. So let's go ahead and we will start with the crickets. So the first thing that comes to keeping your insects alive would be having somewhere to put them. For my crickets, I'm going to be using this cricket keeper here. Now, I like to use these specifically because of these little tubes that they come with. So essentially these tubes here, they just sit inside the cricket keeper, and the crickets will tend to climb up them because they provide like a dark hiding space for them, which they like. So then when it comes time to feed your reptile, you can just slide these tubes out and then shake them out, and any crickets that are inside the tubes will fall out. So it's a pretty easy way to feed them. them. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the lid off of this, and then with just the empty container here, I'm going to line the bottom with some paper towel just to kind of act as like a substrate. It gives them a surface to walk on and it makes for easy cleaning. Okay, so I just went ahead and I cut the piece of paper towel because it was too big to fit in it itself, so I just went and like cut it so that it fits a little better. So that's that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take these two little things. They're kind of like little bowls that have a ramp to them. These came with the cricket keeper, but if you don't have something like this, you could use kind of like any small dish or container. Like, I don't know, you could use bottle caps if you want, just any small. So now in the little containers we have here, I'm going to be adding two different things. One of them, I'm going to be putting this cricket quencher in. This is essentially a water for them. It's kind of in gel form though, because if you just put pure water in there, crickets tend to drown in it. So I like to use this. We're going to be adding a little bit of this into one of them, and then we're also going to be adding some of this cricket diet into another one. Now I like to use this one in particular because the protein content is really high on this. It has about 20% protein, and I was looking at some of the other ones at the pet store and some of them have like 3% protein, so I like to use this one because it has high protein, which is good for your reptiles that you're feeding them to. So I'm going to be adding some of this into one dish and then some of the water into another dish. And then once I have the stuff in the bowls, I'm just going to go ahead and add it into the cage. Now that's not all that I like to feed my crickets. I like to give them some fresh fruit and vegetables as well. So to do that, I'm going to be taking some apple, some cucumber, and some carrot and chopping them up into little pieces and then adding them into the container also. Now, you don't need a lot of fresh fruit and veggies because they don't eat a lot. I mean, they're really tiny creatures, so I'm just going to be adding in one little apple slice, one little cucumber slice, and then one little piece of carrot. So I'm just going to go ahead and just put these right in the container. And then now that that is done, I will go ahead and add the lid back on. So their little cricket enclosure is now all done, so all I have left to do is add the crickets. So that is it for the crickets. They now have their food, their water, they have some paper towel on the bottom, they have some fresh fruit and veggies, and then I also added their egg carton in there just because it gives them some more space to climb. So this is essentially all I do for the crickets. So next we'll move on to the mealworms and the superworms. So I'm just going to do them at the same time because they are essentially all cared for the exact same, and I want to save a little bit of time. So once again, you will need a container to keep them in. Here I have two little critter keepers that I will be putting the mealworms and superworms in. So essentially what I'm going to do is just dump each container out into one critter keeper. I will put the mealworms in one and then the superworms in the other. So now that they are in their containers, the next thing I'm going to do is take two of these little dishes again. Same as before, if you don't have these, you can just use any kind of small dish, and I'm just going to go ahead and add some of the water stuff, the water gel, into these containers and then put one in each thing. Now I don't know if this is exactly necessary. I found that mealworms and superworms tend to live a super long time without water anyways, but I like to still give it to them just because, I mean, I feel like why not offer it to them? I feel like this kind of is optional, but like if you can do it, I don't see why not. Okay, so now that they are full with the water gel, I'm just going to go ahead and put them in the containers. Now that those are done, I'm not going to be adding any of this food in here just because I use this only for my cricket, but I am going to be feeding them fresh fruit and veggies. So same as I did with the crickets, I'm just going to be cutting up some cucumber, some apple, and some carrot for them. Now superworms tend to eat a lot more than mealworms do, so I typically give the superworms like bigger pieces. For example, just this is the superworms apple slice and then this is the mealworms apple slice. So I tend to give the superworms quite a bit more just because they eat a lot more. And then all I do is I just directly add these into there. They will kind of get covered in the dusty stuff that's in there, but that doesn't really matter. The superworms eat it regardless. So I just go ahead and put all the food directly in there. Alright, so that is it for when it comes to caring for my feeder insects, I have had a lot of success by doing this. By no means am I saying this is the only way to care for your feeder insects. This is just what has worked for me, and it works really well. I don't have them die that often. I rarely have crickets die. I rarely have mealworms die, especially superworms. Some of the superworms in here I have had for 2 months now. It's literally crazy. So again, by no means am I saying this is the only right way or that you have to do this. This is just what works for me, and if you guys are looking for something that works for you, maybe give this a try and see if it does. With all of that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching my video today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you had fun watching my animals eat and seeing how I care for my feeder insects. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It would mean a lot. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you aren't already and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I post. Also, be sure to check out all of my social media. Everything will be in the description below, but it is all just MSAM99. I have a thing in my eye. All of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.